Hello, guys and gals, and this is a book review for Wings of Fire, A Guide to the Dragon World. Now, this was an amazing book. Around 200 pages, I think. It gives lore for every single tribe in all of the books. Is it 11 tribes now? Is it 12? Wait. I think it's 10, actually. Anyways, there are, I think, 7 tribes in Puria and 3 tribes in Pantala, I think. Okay, but yeah, this gives lore basically with the concept of Starflight sending out memos to all of the queens of all the tribes to make a book, basically this book with lore, to fill it with lore based on each of the tribes. And it's really fascinating because we actually get some really nice Mudwing lore, and that's something that was sorely missing from the series previously, because it seems like the Mudwings have like the least tribe development. But this actually sheds some light on that. There's some really interesting stories from that era, including a story from a time before Queen Morhin took over. So we're talking maybe the time either around or before Darkstalker. So that's really interesting. Anyways, this basically goes tribe by tribe, and there's lore for each of the tribes, which is really, really fascinating. And some of the stories are from a long, long time ago, which is also really, really fascinating. This includes the tribes over on the Lost Continent also. The Silkwings, the Hivewings, and the Leafwings also contributed to the book, which is really cool. Wait, we can probably figure this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it is 10 tribes. No, it would be 10 tribes, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it's 10 tribes. Oh yeah, I see. There's the Icewing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so it's 10 tribes. That's cool. Okay, but also one of the interesting things was that I think I recall a list of Animus touched objects from the Icewing treasury. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken, but it's been a while since I read this book, so I probably should have done a review of this book right after I read it. But it's been a couple months. But I seem to remember I remember a list of Queen Scarlet's enemies, which was really fascinating because it did leave kind of a question mark about who some of them were, to be honest. Because sometimes it was just descriptions. But I also remember, if I'm not mistaken, I remember a list of Animus touched objects that are owned by the Icewings. And that's fascinating. Because we know a little bit about that from book 14, I want to say. About the treasury and, the secret treasury. So that was very fascinating too. But yeah, sorry, that shouldn't be on the screen. Anyways, it was hard to find a good picture of this since I don't really have the book anymore, so I had to find a picture online. It was hard to find a picture that was good resolution because usually they were really pixelated. This was about the clearest one I could find. But yeah, the Mudwings in particular, they had an old story, and I mentioned it before about the time before Queen Morhen took over. It talks about one of Now, this is a trend I've noticed. It's a really interesting trend, actually. It mentions that one of the group of five, because, it's always a clutch of 5 eggs, that one of the 5, a male mudwing named Copperhead, not to be confused with the human named Copperhead. This was the mudwing named Copperhead. Basically ran off with a male rainwing. And so, yeah, that could be the very first instance, chronologically, of... Well, what you notice is a lot of the time, anytime there is an LGBT, dragon, usually they run off with a rain wing, which is, I think, fascinating. Well, of course, we've seen this with pineapple and jambu. We've also seen it with... I'm not sure of the technical status, but we've also seen this with anemone and tamarin, but I'm not sure if they're like a couple, but I know they're friends. I'm not gonna exactly say they're a couple like that, but they're friends. We've seen that with who else? Well, we know that Umber had a crush on Kibble, and the fans have been shipping. Yeah, Winter with Kibble as well. But trying to think of other Rainwing couples, but there was Copperhead and some unnamed Rainwing, like thousands of years ago, which was interesting. But yeah, it was just fascinating. This was a fascinating book. It even had a recipe in there to make honey drops. Now, honey drops were mentioned in Arc 3 because they were like a delicacy to the silk wings and the hive wings. Not so much the leaf wings, because the leaf wings weren't really around for that, I would say. But there was a recipe in this book for honey drops, which was fascinating too. I didn't write down the recipe, so I can't make honey drops, but it looked really fascinating. I'm not sure if it was an actual real recipe, but I think it was, which is kind of neat. But anyways, yeah, this book had all kinds of really interesting stuff it's stuff I didn't think I needed to know, but that was fascinating to know. But yeah. And the concept is really neat too, because you have Starflight, trying to basically form a compendium of history here so the tribes could get along a lot better. And I think that's a great idea. I think the book was very well written. I didn't think it would take me long to read it, but it actually took me longer than I thought to read it, because it was very in-depth and it had a lot of lore to break down. Very, very fascinating. I hope that there's another book kind of like this, maybe further on down the road when there's more lore to assimilate and stuff like that. But anyways, another really interesting thing, I will bring this up. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. The dynamic was different before the time of Darkstalker. And it's fascinating because the most fierce tribe in all of Pyria back then were the Rainwings. And they were like really warlike, kind of like what the Nightwings and the Ice Wings were in modern day. And rightfully so. I mean, Rainwings have the acid spit, the acid venom that can melt a dragon's face off. And it's just kind of interesting. It's just kind of interesting to read about that. I thought for a second there it hadn't been recording, and like, oh, I'm going to have to redo all this. But anyways, but yeah, it's kind of funny to think that way back then that the Rainwings were like the most feared race of dragons around, the tribe of dragons. They were like feared by everybody. And then today they weren't really feared by anybody because they were seen as like being lazy and stuff like that. So it's just a really interesting dynamic shift or change or whatever. But anyways, yeah, there are some really fascinating things. If you love Wings of Fire, if you're a big fan of the franchise, then I suggest you go to your library first because I think this book is like $35 to buy it. But you can probably borrow it from the library. I know our library had a copy of it, which is how I read it, was able to read it. Even though this is a book that's nice enough and I like enough that I'd probably be willing to, buy it because it has a lot of lore in it that you probably won't find anywhere else. It's really, really fascinating. Um, there are stories in here written by dragons that like Kikiju. Even Kikiju wrote a story in here that's in this book. And it's just fascinating, especially what I really found the most fascinating was the ancient history, the story of the Mudwings, prior to Queen Moorhen taking over, the ancient lore about the Rainwings being really vicious, and there's stuff like that. Also, there was even stories from the time, I think even before Darkstalker, from the Nightwings. That was really fascinating too. It's probably a book I do want to read again. And it is a book that I would consider picking up and owning a copy myself, just because it is a very well-written book. But yeah, this is a book that I would highly recommend you check out if you are a huge fan, or even if you're if you're only a little bit into the Wings of Fire franchise. It's a book that's worth reading. But then again, that's just my opinion. You can either take my opinion or leave it either way is fine. What I like most about this product or this book was all the different stories and all the lore. If you're a big lore fan, then this is the book for you to check out at your local library. But anyways, that is going to do it for this video. Thanks again for watching, everyone. You are loved and have a great day.